published 1734 est, the 20th of November 2017, updated 1942 est, the 20th of November 2017. It was not the most auspicious start when England arrived in Australia for this Ashes tour. The interviewer bounded up to Alastair Cook at Perth Airport. "James," he began, "and if the locals don't remember the man who batted for 36 hours and 11 minutes at an average of 127.6 on the 201,011 tour, what chance have they got with the likes of Mark Stoneman and James Vince?" About as much recall as all but the tragics back home will have for Cameron Bancroft, Tim Paine, named in Australia's lineup. An Australian paper introduced unknown England, but there was no mention of Jake BallYet. These are the figures that could turn this most historic of sporting encounters. It could all boil down to them: the journeymen, the first-timers, the last names on the team sheet. The players' selectors would have agonised overlong into the night before deciding. How many conversations resulted in the decision to pick Australian wicketkeeper Paine, for instance, considering he was not the #1 choice for Tasmania at the start of the season? How many times have England rewritten and revised the top order on paper this last year? On Monday, the Australian newspaper attempted to introduce unknown England to its public as it counted down to the first test at the Gabba. There was not even a mention of Jake Ball, whose recovery from an ankle ligament injury means he is likely to play ahead of Craig Overton in England's seam attack. It comes to something when what is unknown doesn't just stop at a list of unknowns, much like Donald Rumsfeld's summing up of American policy in Iraq. "There are known knowns," he said. "There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns, that is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know we don't know." Dwayne Mallon is one of the unexpected players that could rise to the occasion. Down under, where hear you, Donald? England's Ashes 11 is pretty much like that. And Australia's too. For what if a player like Bancroft, on his test debut having missed out when the tour of Bangladesh was cancelled, transpires to be the perfect foil for David Warner and Australia's openers turn the series? What if the sprinkling of gun players cancel each other out, meaning that tests are decided by a breakout star, a name few had imagined taking centre stage? Bancroft or Usman Khawaja, Vince or Dwayne Mallon. If one or two players rise to the occasion unexpectedly in a series as tight as this, it could be the tipping point. We all remember Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath, and in the best teams the most gifted players are often the difference. But when superiority is less clearly defined, ask Andrew Strauss about Peter Siddle's contribution to Australian supremacy, or the way Stuart Clark could tie up one end for 6 overs and build the tension. It isn't always about the household names. This is not, let's face it, a classic Ashes match-up. There are precious few great players in either team, and one of the best is sitting at home awaiting a call from his lawyers. Down here, they see Ben Stokes' arrival as imminent, part of another cunning pommy plot, but the reality is, even if the Crown Prosecution Service do not detain him this winter, in all likelihood the ECB will. What if Tim Paine is a rival for Johnny Bairstow with a bat? The unknowns are fascinating, so the Ashes is down at least one marquee name, and maybe more by the end given the fitness issues that have plagued some of Australia's frontline bowlers. All are available for the first test, but quite what condition they will be in as the tour moves deep into December is another matter. The supporting cast, players not yet on the team sheet even, could still have a huge role. England and Australia's best bowlers look well matched. One conceives of games in which Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood get big wickets early, and the same goes for James Anderson and Stuart Broad, certainly when favoured by the conditions in the day-night second test in Adelaide. That applies equally to Warner and Steve Smith against Cook and Joe Root. All possess the quality to take the game away from the opposition, all have the potential for big scores in the right conditions. So what is left? The nuances, the many tiny battles that take place away from the primary focus. Can Moeen Ali match Nathan Lyon as a spinner? Can Chris Woakes and the rest of England's tail be as resilient as Australia down the order? Khawaja averages 63 in home tests, Peter Handscomb 53 in 10 tests. Can Vince Stoneman match or outstrip the scoring? Might Mallon be better suited to Australian wickets than imagined? What if the unheralded Paine is a rival for Johnny Bairstow with a bat? Mark Stoneman could be the star if he finally solves England's second opener conundrum. That alone could change the entire dynamic of the series. Pat Cummins was Australia's fast-bowling prodigy, making his Test debut at 18 in what was his fourth first-class match. He is 24 now, and has played just 5 tests due to a succession of injuries, including a stress fracture in his back. There was more than 5 years and 3 months between his first and second Test appearances. Cummins is genuinely fast and could be as much of a threat to England as Mitchell Johnson was on the last tour. But can he stay fit? Again, we cannot know. It is the imponderables rather than the quality that contains the fascination on this tour. The intrigue is in the subplots, in the possibility that a game-changer will emerge, as Michael Vaughan did on the 200,203 Ashes tour, as Stokes did even in heavy defeat the last time. This series could be transformed by an individual whose name means little now, but could have been elevated to heroic status come Sydney in January. Stoneman, perhaps, if he finally solves England's second opener conundrum. This could be his moment. Then again, it could be anyone's moment. That is the joy of this series. It's the unknown unknowns that could make this Ashes campaign the tightest test of all.